Good evening, and welcome to today's edition of Keeping It Real with Rammona. I have a very special guest with me here today. Her name is Samara Mahindra. Hi, Samara.
Hi, Rammona. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very well. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out to be on Keeping It Real with Rammona today. I'm really, really happy that you're here, and I'm looking forward to an interesting conversation with you.
It's
I'm
a
going to just take
pleasure.
a
Likewise.
Thank you. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and briefly introduce Samara and the work that she's been doing for the last few years. So Samara is actually the CEO and the founder of an organization that's called Carer, and it's actually India's first integrative oncology company. So basically what they do is they provide personalized cancer care to patients, and Carer provides integrative therapy and treatment to help patients in different ways, to heal better, to feel better, and to actually live a better life during and after their treatment. So there are many different hats that, Samara wears at Carer. She's not only a cancer coach, she's also a leader to her team. And of course, like I said, this is an organization that she's founded. And there was an actual trigger that led to Samara launching her organization called Carer, which was her own personal experience of losing her mother to cancer and also taking care of her mother, during the time that she was unwell. And during the course of her cancer care journey with her mother, Samara actually had a realization, which was that cancer treatment in India is basically focused on medication only, and any lifestyle changes that need to be incorporated that might be helpful, might make healing easier or quicker, those were lacking. So she felt that that stems from a lack of awareness of what is really required, for that overall healing to happen in a more easier manner. And so then she started looking beyond medication, things like nutrition, yoga, meditation, other psychological interventions that could help improve patient outcomes and relieve side effects of standard treatments. So she's actually got more than 8 years of experience in the field. And I have, of course, shared, there are different, qualifications that she's received, which directly relate to the work that she's been doing. And she's also been a TEDx speaker. And she's actually recognized in the medical fraternity as one of the first reputed companies to introduce integrative and holistic care into mainstream treatment. So that was a little bit about Samara. And Samara, like I said, thank you so much for being here today. Of course, I've shared a little bit briefly about you, your organization, but I would love to actually know a little bit more from you in terms of, your journey with this. We talked about the fact that, your mother was someone who was afflicted with cancer. But I'd like to know a little bit more, in your own words, that what was really the reason you set up the organization and how the experience has been so far.
So again, thank you, Ramona. I'm really happy to be doing this. Even I didn't know I had that kind of a bio, so thank you for that. Like you rightly said, it was a personal endeavor or a personal encounter that actually, kind of pushed me into this space. But I have always been someone who's really interested in, wellness, lifestyle, physical exercise, things like that. And so it was very, very normal for me to always look at that aspect of care, even if someone was unwell.
Okay.
When my mother was diagnosed, we didn't even know what the word cancer really meant. It was just one of those
Sure.
very scary terms. And unfortunately, it happened to her. And then we went through many, many years of treatment and realized that, and I personally realized that there has to be something beyond treatment, because although treatment supports the care of a patient and probably their medical outcomes, the quality of life of a patient depletes to a large degree. And
Sure.
I would notice that how much of an impact nutrition would play in her treatment and recovery, or being physically active, or most importantly, even just how the patient is feeling mentally, and the psychological aspect of care. Unfortunately, we lost her, almost like 10 years ago. But for me, it was such that I just couldn't get myself to go back to what I was doing previously, and that there was like a seed that was planted, and I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to know if there was anything beyond treatment that can be provided to a patient, and that
Sure.
led me to learning about what I always liked, which is like anatomy and physiology. And then I
Uh-huh.
trained in the field, and then I trained as a cancer exercise specialist, and then a breast cancer recovery trainer. Then I
Yeah.
learned nutrition, and like that, step by step, kind of the doors opened, and I started working for this nonprofit organization in New York City, where we were working with cancer patients using physical movement and dance therapy. And they exposed me to this term called integrative oncology, which
Uh-huh.
is just a medical term of using lifestyle therapies,
Sure.
holistic therapies from a medical standpoint to improve the outcome and the quality of life of a patient, which is essentially
Yeah.
what we were looking for. And I realized that all the major hospitals in the world actually have integrative medicine units, and that it's very heavily backed by science. And that's when I realized that we didn't have access to this in India, and since then is when it was just a step that I took and said, okay, let me give it a shot in India for a couple of months,
Okay.
see if it's something that works out, and let me see if I can introduce the concept in India. And so that's when I moved back to India for a couple of months, and
Uh-huh.
realized that the problem persisted even more so than when we were going through it with my mother. So that was my first encounter into the medical fraternity and into integrative oncology.
All right. So it seems that the time that you spent in New York, and you shared that there were different things that you decided to do to walk along
Mhm.
this path of actually integrative healing. I know, like, your particular organization may be centered around cancer, but I think this holds true for people with anything that's going on. It doesn't have to be a physical disease only, right? It can be mental illness that a person's encountering, or
Absolutely, absolutely.
some other physical illness. And if that healing doesn't happen in a holistic way, sometimes you need different things that you can integrate, whatever
Yeah.
it may be.
So
And that always, yeah, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
the medical treatment. So I'm not against medical treatment at all, but I know
Yeah.
that allopathic treatment looks at it's a very symptom based approach, right? So they see what's
Yes.
physically wrong with the body,
Yeah.
and then they try to fix it through treatment, which is required. But if you
Yeah.
don't look at the root cause of why this happened, and this could be anything, this could be chronic stress that led to inflammation in the body, which
Absolutely.
then led to some sort of disease in the body. So the thing is that what an integrative approach does is takes into consideration the medical treatment, but also includes the other facets of therapy and healing and lifestyle. Because today, all more or less all the diseases, chronic diseases that we
Yeah.
are encountering is lifestyle related. So we need
True.
to treat the lifestyle to actually recover from the disease. And so integrative medicine essentially integrates allopathic treatment and these holistic therapies for better patient outcomes and to actually cure the patient.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that. Samara, I actually wanted to ask you something because, obviously, you shared that your mother went through her treatment for many years, and you probably were in some capacity the person who was taking care of her as well.
Yeah.
Whether you were, taking her for her treatments, or you were just, there for emotional support. I mean, there's so many different things that probably you did, to help your mother. I wanted to focus the conversation a little bit on that particular role. It's interesting that your organization is called Carer,
Yeah.
and I feel that that role sometimes gets overlooked. Like, so much focus happens on whatever, like I said, any disease or any issue that a person has, like his support system. It could be a friend, a very close friend. It could be a spouse. It could be a child. It could
Yeah.
be a parent, who's totally focused on taking care of them and being the carer. So I wanted to, ask you to share your thoughts around that.
So I think one of the most important aspect of a patient's recovery is actually the environment and the caregiving environment, and that is the segment that is least looked upon. And I think just being a caregiver myself, I've realized that we go through our own bout of like various things that are happening with us, whether it's guilt,
Sure.
helplessness,
Yeah.
fear, so multiple issues that, and like we were speaking earlier, so I was telling you that a lot of patients, which we have found is that once they get out of treatment, they go through like withdrawal symptoms of not having so much attention on them. So
Sure.
remember, they have like the entire medical team looking after them. They have the entire family. They have multiple, and in India especially, we have like a large family,
Yeah.
friends. Everything comes
Sure.
together. The community comes together,
Yeah.
and so they are supported to a certain degree. But it's the
Uh-huh.
caregivers around that go through really difficult time, and that's why even with what we do and through carer, we a lot of our psychological counseling and coaching is for the caregiver, not
Yeah.
only for the patient, and that's really really important.
Yeah.
So we tell the caregivers to kind of indulge in this and to actually express their emotions as opposed to kind of just suppressing it and saying that let's just focus on the patient.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, I'm really, happy to know that is something that is part of, the integrative treatment that you offer. Samara, maybe you could share a little bit in terms of what are the different things your organization actually does offer someone who requires, this kind of assistance.
So when you look at integrative oncology, integrative medicine, you're essentially looking at lifestyle. And if you look at lifestyle, you're essentially looking at three things. One is food, two is body, and three is mind. Now, there are multiple things that come under this. So, we talk about food, we more or less rehabilitate the patient or provide a very personalized approach to each and every patient based on their diagnosis, their prognosis, their lifestyle, their cultural background, so on and so forth, in terms of what kind of diet that they should be eating. So, this is not just eating healthy food, this is actually looking at their medical reports, their biochemical markers, so on and so forth, and actually suggesting the right types of foods or substitutes that they should be having for their condition. So we go really deep into nutritional intervention for the patient to really help them build their immune system and combat the disease. The second thing that we offer is the body aspect of it. And what we do is we do yoga therapy, but this is personalized to oncology and
Okay.
physiotherapy as well.
All
And
right.
then the mind aspect of it is we do a lot of meditations, a lot of guided meditations, as well as coaching and counseling for the patients and the caregivers. So that's how we cover food, body, and mind.
Okay, wonderful. So I have a comment here from Kamal. She says that's so wonderful and a very compassionate way of helping. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
with that comment, I was wondering, because I mean, I know that things have changed a lot over the years in India in terms of even outlook, on how, disease is looked at. And, I feel now people are more open to a more holistic approach, versus just one particular way of, say, traditional treatment. What has your experience been in that area, Samara? Have you found that there are families that are willing and open, and what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so when we were going through it personally, honestly, we would follow suit of what the doctor would say. Like, doctor was God to us. So if the doctor
Sure.
said do this, we would just blindly follow, the way forward. Although there is still a large segment of people in India who are like that, it's changing rapidly. So
Yeah.
initially, when you're starting a healthcare company, the
Mhm.
the usual approach is to go more B2B, where you work, directly with doctors and hospitals, which we did. But then we saw an influx of patients or caregivers who would reach out to us directly saying, we're looking for services like this, we're looking for therapies like this.
Yeah.
You have a large group of people who now question, who are more worldly in things of just exposure to what's out there,
Yeah.
researching. Like some of the caregivers that I deal with have become, I mean, they go and research, say their mother or father is going through it. They
Yeah.
know more about the condition than even the doctor does. I mean, they become like, pseudo doctors, literally, an
Sure.
oncologist.
Sure.
So there's a
Sure.
lot of knowledge about it. But an interesting thing has happened that I've seen a major difference from the time COVID has hit, actually. Because
Okay.
suddenly now everyone's talking about immunity, everyone's talking about lifestyle, everyone's talking about what are you eating, how you, because we have nothing else to protect us from the virus apart from our immune system. So now suddenly
That's
everyone
true.
understands how important immunity is. And then we talk about chronic disease, which cancer now really has become a chronic disease. So the way that you prevent a chronic disease or recover from it is to change your lifestyle. So major change. But having said that, we have a long way to go. We are not even close to what's happening, at least in the West.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's encouraging, that you're saying that a lot more people are open to integrating, different things in kind of achieving that overall, recovery or wellness for a person. I found that as well in my work because, I've worked with cancer patients as well. And I can give you one example where there was a small child. He was 6 years old. I was working with him with the healing modality that I have been using. It was interesting because he was on this regimen. There was a double regimen that he was on, so it was steroids and chemotherapy, and his parents were very clear that that was the path that they were going to take. Like they had chalked out everything in terms of what the treatment plan was. But the issue that happened with them is that the child started having very severe side effects. So
Okay.
He'd have one cycle, and after that the next 15 days would go in him being really unwell. And so that's when they started looking out for something that could assist with the side effects, for example. And that's kind of where I came in the picture. And I remember the first day I worked with him, I wasn't sure if I could take it forward, because here was a 6-year-old who was really he was angry, he was depressed. He didn't really seem like a 6-year-old. He seemed
Yeah.
like this much older person, and he wasn't really open to even having a conversation. Not that I need a conversation to do the processes that I run, but you always want the individual to be involved in their own healing. And then I also realized that there was a lot, because all of us are psychic sponges. So there was a lot, because he lived in a joint family setup. There was a lot he was taking in from his parents, from grandparents and all of that. And the main thing was he was only being viewed as this child with cancer. Everybody kind of forgot the fact that he's a child. And after a couple of sessions, I started seeing a lot of change in him. His worksheets from school used to be sent home. All he was interested in was being with his iPad. But then I noticed even in the room, he'd start playing with a ball, or start kind of talking. His mom said that he started talking about school, about his friends, and okay, I want to look at my work and stuff like that. I remember after about the 4th session, she said, "Oh my God, he started troubling me again." I told her, I said, "You should be grateful for
Being a
that."
child again. Yeah.
I said, "He's a kid, he's a 6-year-old. I said, "You should be thankful for that."
Yeah.
But it did involve, on my part, working with the family as well, on some level, because, I had to shift that whole focus from the fact that the child had cancer to the fact that he's a 6-year-old. You've got to not forget that. Unfortunately, he was able to complete his entire regimen, and there was no side effects he encountered after that. And it's been almost 4 years now. He's been back in school and all of that. After those few months, I think the next summer he went back to school, which must have been maybe 4 months after we started I started the sessions with him. And he's been well. But so I understand, because sometimes when you're working with a family, it's so many other things that come into play. And I think it's really important what your organization is doing, because I don't think there are too many organizations out there who are willing to work in the manner that you're working. So I mean, I have to really give you a lot of appreciation for having that sort of foresight and bringing this to people who are looking for something like this, Samara.
No, thank you so much for that. I think you stated a very important point, and honestly, I feel that the change is going to happen when we educate ourselves about this a little further and kind of destigmatize this entire disease, because that's where the problem occurs. Because people are pretty ignorant, and so was I, about what actually is cancer, what is happening to your body. So there is just so much fear associated towards it. So if your child gets it or someone in the family get it, you suddenly treat the person very differently. But all you need to do is really educate yourself about what the disease is, and realize that that doesn't become you, and you're not that disease, right? It's an obstacle that's coming to your life, and like you rightly said, the child has to be a child. And that's how even with us, the way we treat the patient, it's not, to be really honest, when I first started, I didn't even want to call them patients. But we eventually had to keep it as patients because we were dealing with the medical fraternity, and that was obviously causing a lot of disruptions because we would
Yeah.
work with a lot of doctors' patients. So I
Sure.
reluctantly call them patients today, but that's what we did as well. We create a very normal environment for them because there's nothing abnormal. It's just really nothing abnormal with them. So that's very important, is to educate, teach people, and communicate really what exactly is mental health or chronic diseases or cancer or whatever it might be, because I think that's where the problem lies. It's just the lack of knowledge about it.
Yeah. Tell me one more thing, Samara. I was curious, since, your work would involve interface, I suppose, with doctors who are involved, in terms of the allopathic side, so as to say, of the treatment. How's that been for you? Has it been difficult to kind of break through that, or what's your experience been around that?
So it was a challenge, of course, but rightly so, right? So the good thing that I did was, when I moved back to India, I didn't just decide to start a company. I decided to do an observership in Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. Now
Okay.
that's
All
like
right.
going like neck deep into oncology and really understanding what the space of oncology is in India.
So,
That exposed me to phenomenal doctors, and I created a great relationship with all of them, and I kept in touch. When I actually
wonderful.
started care, and when I actually started Carer, I actually reached back to them and I said, listen, I've actually put this together, and I would love for your patients, for us to run our programs with your patients. But they all said, we believe in what you're doing. We understand that integrative oncology is not established in India, but why should we trust your therapist? Why should we trust your methodology, your program? It's difficult for us to do that. So what I did was, I went about it like doing a clinical trial, like releasing a new drug
Uh-huh.
in the market, like what's happening with the vaccination with COVID, right? So
Sure.
I went up to these doctors, and they were like they were the top notch oncologists who were specializing in breast cancer, brain tumors, head and neck cancer, so on and so forth. And I said, okay, give me like 20 or 30 of your patients. Obviously, they would do a complete thorough check of our program. And I said, I will run a program on your patients for 45 days, and we will measure all the results and the data, and we'll
Okay.
see how your patients improve. And that's what changed the game, because when we saw the results, Rammona, to be honest, even I didn't realize that some of the results we achieved, even I didn't realize we could do it in 45 days. And so we had
Wow.
some of these patients who would go back to their doctors saying, like, why isn't this a part of the treatment? I mean, it has reduced our side effects significantly. It has improved our immune system. It has improved our state of mind. It's improved our weight, our appetite, so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
with those results, I suddenly now had data which I could present to hospitals and to doctors, saying that, okay, fine, this is what we do, and here are the testimonials, the data, and the results to prove that whatever we're
Yeah.
doing works. So that really, really opened doors for us. So that was a process, but it was probably the best step that we ever took, and that it kind of then just went from there, where these major hospital chains would then kind of collaborate with us based on this data.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. So you use the term state of mind, Samara, while you're talking right now. So I thought let's talk a little bit about that. How important is that in, healing? And, the other thing is, like, you hear about, since, we did share right from the beginning that what we're talking about applies to it could be any illness. But since, your organization is centered around cancer, the other thing is that, you hear about these individuals who are able to have overnight kind of transformations, right? So
Yes.
how does that happen? And
So
how
we
important is the state of mind when we're dealing
pro-
with any issue, any illness?
probably the most important thing. So I truly believe, actually, at least everyone carer truly believes that all illnesses start in your gut and in your mind.
True.
So I have seen how important the state of mind plays with a patient's recovery, and now we have made it almost mandatory for all patients to do mental well-being. So this is what happened when we first launched. Everyone would take the physical aspect of it and the nutritional aspect of it, but they would say, no, we're mentally, we're okay, we don't need a counselor, we're fine, we have our family. But then we saw how recovery was not actually as expedited or as effective when they were actually taking the mental well-being. I have seen cases, Ramona, where the patient is doing, in fact, with doctors, where the patient is doing really well, they are eating really healthy, they are physically active, but they have lost
Yeah.
hope. And the second that they lose hope, there's no
Yeah.
turning back. There's just no turning
That's
back.
true.
I have seen this personally. I have seen it. I have seen where doctors have given up on patients and said there's no treatment left. And that patient
Yeah.
is like, has the will to fight and they're still going on. So there is
Yeah.
a big correlation. And today it's proven, right? Like your mind plays a very, very big, it's a huge impact on your physiological state.
Yeah.
Depression is now linked to your gut. So
Sure.
sometimes it's just a matter of actually eating right for your body that can actually eradicate or improve so many mental health conditions. So
Yeah.
it's probably the most important element of any healing or recovery, not only just cancer, but anything actually.
Yeah. So, the term that is, maybe you can help me. I don't know why I'm having a lapse of the exact term, but you hear of people who have these overnight recoveries, like they've gone into hospitals with
Like
for sleep.
spontaneous remission.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, like it
Okay.
happens overnight, literally overnight, or just in a few days. Like they've gone into the hospital and they're considered, at a stage which probably is a later stage, and it's difficult to treat them and all of that. And some people just heal without, uh, you know, undergoing any treatment.
Yeah,
So, what
yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
So, spontaneous remission is something that definitely exists, but there's still no conclusive evidence of exactly what's going on. Like, is it a
Yeah,
placebo effect? And if it is placebo, then, what exactly is happening in the body and how does tumor, regress or tumor actually subside to a almost invisible condition
yeah,
without a patient doing anything. It's still under a lot of research, but there are
yeah,
cases that this is happening with. So I don't
yeah,
know the scientific evidence of what's going on, but personally, if you ask me, it's your state of mind.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
I agree
spoken.
with you on
Yeah,
that, because
yeah,
I mean, my belief is, if you can create something in your body, you can uncreate it. Somewhere that creations happen, and like you said, the creation normally starts in our mental,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
in our mental space, in our emotional space, and then it
yeah.
manifests in our physical bodies. So if we can create something, we can uncreate it. Sorry, you were going to say something
No, exactly.
on that.
I completely agree with what you're saying, and so I'm not. I'm also a person that I need to understand the logic behind it. I might
Yeah,
not be, I don't have to be swayed by science or be like I have to know the scientific evidence behind this, but I
yeah,
need to definitely understand. Okay, how does this work? So even
sure,
with spontaneous remissions, or even with situations where we see patients who are still doing really well, and it's kind of unexplained how this is happening. There's still some science behind this. There's still some logic behind it. It's just that we're unable to pinpoint exactly what's going on as of right now. But I know
correct.
at some point we will come to some kind of understanding in the medical field of what really is happening. This is not like some you know unexplained stuff or like some voodoo stuff that's going on. It's
Yeah,
something that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually happening. Like I
Of
remember
course.
having this very, very well reputed doctor in Tata who turned around and said that, I have patients, younger patients are succumbing to the disease more than elderly patients, because the younger patients, when they're diagnosed at a younger age, they feel very helpless and hopeless, and they give up because they're like, how can they feel very deceived by their bodies, like how could this have happened to me at this age, and they've already given up. But the elder patients, are the ones who are like, okay, we've already reached that age. The acceptance of the disease is much greater, and for some reason, they survive it for longer, or they survive it
Yeah,
all through. One of the
yeah.
the number one thing that we focus on in our mental well-being program is acceptance of the disease. That's the
Yeah,
first.
I was just gonna say, because that would be covered in the mind bit of it, right?
Yes, and that's the first step, and probably the hardest. But as soon as you have a level of acceptance of what's going on, healing then
Yeah,
becomes just automated after that. Your body, your mind, everything will heal. So, and acceptance happens where it happens in your mind. You have to come to that state of mind to be like, okay, this is now what's happened to me. What's the next
yeah,
step? and automatically your body relaxes, your cortisol levels, decrease, and you just feel a sense of calm because you've just come to terms with something. And once you just come to terms with something, then you know what the next step is forward. And that's why we always focus on acceptance of the condition before moving on.
Wonderful, wonderful. Samara, I wanted to ask you that, maybe you could share with us what are the cities that, the services are available in, and also, with the whole pandemic situation, how has that impacted work? Have you started doing things differently because of it?
Yes, so we were completely a home care service. So we would provide our therapies in a patient's home. So all our therapists would go home, whether it's a clinical
Correct,
nutritionist, yoga therapist, the
correct.
coach, whatever. And that was mainly present in Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore. Since COVID
Okay.
hit, and we for the longest time wanted to move a lot of our patients online, um, and maintain that level of quality. Now, when COVID hit, what happened was. It was an automatic progression, right? Like we just suddenly told our patients that we can't come to your homes anymore, so you will have to move online. And that actually really helped us because we saw that quality and outcomes and data was still maintained for the
Wonderful.
patient. And so we
Okay.
realized that okay, so a digital platform is not impeding the quality of the service delivery or delivery of the actual service, which is great.
Yeah.
So then we then moved all our patients online, and today all our programs are online services. So
Okay.
everybody, whether it is 11-year-old child or a 75-year-old person, is all online. And all our therapies are live on Zoom, and it's actually really easy. It's been wonderful, and we're still able to maintain that quality. So COVID has completely changed our business model, to be really honest, for the better, because
Okay.
you can access so many more patients. Now I'm accessible to not only people in India, I treat people outside India as well. So I'm
Okay.
suddenly accessible to everybody because we're on a digital platform. And it's also made the elderly become more comfortable with tech. So now they don't, complain saying, no, we need you to come home. Now they're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We are more comfortable on this platform as well. So that's
Yeah.
really helped us. Really helped us.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that, I mean, I know a lot of businesses have had to take, things online. But what do you personally feel? I mean, it's great that if you've been able to maintain, the levels in terms of quality care and all of that you talked about. That's wonderful that you've been able to do that. But, what is your take on that personal touch? Because, um again, the online bit is a little different from actually having a person, come to your home and, spend that time with you. The energy flow between two individuals who are working together in that manner is different. So, what is your take on that?
So I don't think anything will ever beat human intervention and human
Yeah,
connection.
yeah,
From day one when we started, however difficult it was to have therapists on ground visiting patients, I just never allowed it to be replaced by an app or a tech platform
yeah,
because I said
yeah,
nothing can beat human, um, just the human connection, right? Just the touch and feel.
yeah,
Today, I might not think of it as stringent as I did then, but it has to be a
sure,
bit of both, right? So,
yeah,
what happens is if you can't kind of accomplish the touch and feel, then the visual aspect of it becomes very important. So we've made okay video a very important component. The live aspect of it becomes important. Like how you and me are speaking, it's I can
yeah,
still see you. You're still there talking to me, and there is a connection.
yeah,
But will it ever beat me sitting with you and having a session, or you sitting with me? No, probably not.
yeah,
Having said that, that does not mean that what you provide to me in a session is going to be any less of me actually physically sitting there. So that was my biggest issue. Now,
yeah,
if we will go back to home care services, but it will be an integration. My clinical nutritionist does not have to come and sit with you every session. She does not have to physically be there. It's not required. But does
okay,
my yoga therapist have to come and if you're in a very bad physical condition, does my yoga therapist have to come and really, or my physiotherapist has to come and really help you fix that condition, help you stretch your, whatever, fix the joint muscle, stretch your limbs, whatever it might be. Yes, you might require that, So, and in the best way to deliver the service now and to actually have those kind of outcomes is an iteration of online plus, the physical human connection.
All right. So, Samara, since you've been working in this area for quite a long time, more than 8 years now, um, I wanted to ask you, like, is there something, because you also work with so many different patients, at different stages of the disease. I wanted to ask you that, is there something you want to say to someone who's struggling through something and hasn't been able to find the right care yet, so maybe they're following the traditional path, and also families are involved, especially if we're talking about India. A lot of times families get very involved in the treatment, and everyone
Right.
has their own point of view of what's better and what's not. Is there something you want to say to someone who's kind of tired of just following that traditional path, and somehow knowing that there's something else available but they haven't been able to find it? What would you say to someone like that?
That keep looking, keep researching, because there's never full stop or the end of the road. There just never is. I've never seen that unless you believe that there you've come to the end of the road. It's like how I found you, Rammona. Like I kept my literally kept everything open, and I said, okay, whatever that can help my patients, I want access to all of this, so we are providing food, nutrition intervention. We're providing yoga therapy, physio. We're providing counseling and coaching. But there's so much more out there. And for anyone who's stuck, they need to reach out. I mean, to people like yourself, to me, where we can guide them and say, okay, fine, this could really be helpful to you, because it can be really overwhelming. You suddenly have, first of all, you're bombarded with too much information online,
Yeah.
which all of which or most of which is questionable. You have to see which kind of sources, and it's very generalized information. You can't kind of
Yeah.
adapt. They kind of put it to at least make it seem like that could be your situation. And second is that yes, the doctors are very important and they tell you the way forward, but don't fall for statistics. That's
Yeah.
just no. Learn what your case is, learn your diagnosis, ask questions, and remember, the oncologist is very, very good, but he or she is not. None of us are God. Neither is an oncologist. They do their job. They are
Yeah.
great at giving their medical treatment, and that's what they're good at. But there is a world beyond that, a world beyond
True.
that, and that's when you need to step out and say, okay, fine. Like, unfortunately, in the medical field, they are very against alternative treatment, but not
Yeah.
all alternative treatment is bad. In fact, there are certain, alternative treatments that I truly believe in. Now, there is also a lot of things out there that are questionable, and quacks and things like that. But as much as that, there is also some forms of alternative treatment that can really help patients. So research, understand the logic behind what is going on. Why does this therapy work for me? A lot of patients come and say, there's this concoction, some bark concoction or whatever that is curing cancer. So I'm like, okay, what is in the concoction? And
Yeah.
no, I don't know. It is a concoction that's given to everyone. Now that for me is a problem. Now you come and tell me, I want to do a certain therapy, like example, vitamin C infusions or whatever that might be. Then I'm always asking, why do you want to do it? Do you understand the logic behind why they're giving you these vitamin C infusions? What are the pros and cons? Ask questions, understand for yourself. And if you are under the care of a medical oncologist, you need to let them know about anything that you're doing, because you are under
True.
the care. They can have a like basically a counteractive um,
Yeah.
effect with the chemotherapy. So that's something that you should
Sure.
always look at. But if someone is stuck, I would say you got to reach out. You got to reach out to alternative therapists. You got to reach out to mind body therapists, physical therapists, nutritional therapists, people like you and ourselves who can guide them and put them into the right direction. But there is a lot out there. You have to find what really works for you.
That's true. I think that's the key, right? What works for you? Different things work for
Yeah.
different people,
Yeah.
and so keep looking. Don't give up, and always know. I mean, I believe that if we can create something, we can uncreate it. So there may be different
That's
ways
something
of
that
doing
you've
that. You
taught
may
me. That's something that you've also taught me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what is the way forward? What are your plans for the future, Samara?
So it's interesting you asked me that question because I think I'm a little bit in a transition phase. I got into this field because I'm very, very passionate about it. And I suddenly realized, I think I spoke to you about this, that,
Yeah.
a passion doesn't necessarily have to lie within you for the rest of your life, right? It's not something that, is there. And so I started, I'm still very passionate about what I do, but I feel like I can give so much more. I feel like if I really want to make a change, to be honest with you, I believe change happens through education, through knowledge, through communication, through messaging, right? And for me, although I love Kero and it will always be a part of who I am, it is definitely going into a transition phase. I want to educate people more about health, wellness, mind, mental health, your body. I feel like we need to. I feel like the educational system that we deal with is pretty archaic in this country and probably around the world. And I think that needs to change. And I would like to be a part of that change. So what are the plans for the future? So one is I'm interested to get into prevention. Um,
Uh-huh.
Before in India was a very has a very reactive approach to health and wellness. When something happens to us, we'll do everything in the world. But before that, we won't take the precautions. We didn't have a proactive approach to health. That's changing today. I also feel that I want to get into prevention because of the area of education. So I am looking at creating like course curriculums where I can then put this online, go to different educational institutes and say, make this a part of a curriculum, a subject. We're learning about history, geography, literature. That's all well and good. Let's also learn
Yeah.
about our bodies. Let's also learn about chronic diseases, how to look after our mind, mental health, your digestion. This is your life. So I see that transition happening, and also definitely beyond oncology and cancer. This
Okay.
is this is lifestyle, anything.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. That sounds amazing, and I think it's something that India really needs. I'm sure other parts of the world require it as well, but I can definitely say that for India, that's something that's required. So I'm actually really excited and looking forward to
I
seeing
think the
that
day
happen.
Yeah, I think the day that I will actually, feel like, okay, I would love to, live to see this day when someone like yourself, people like myself, medical oncologists, doctors, everyone from the fraternity of health, wellness, alternative treatment, all of that can come together and sit on a table and discuss a patient's case. That's what I would
Yeah,
like to see.
that would be amazing.
That would be
That
amazing.
would,
Yeah,
yeah, that would, I think, change a lot of things.
yeah, yeah,
In the overall picture of health and wellness, not just like you said,
yeah.
restricted to one disease. So, thank you again, Samara, for being here today. And
Thank
again,
you.
just wanted to, thank you for the incredible work that you've been doing over the last few years with Kera.
Thank
And
you.
I wish you a lot of success in this new phase that you're stepping into. I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. So keep us posted with that.
Yes,
And
absolutely. I do also want to say one thing that I want to thank you because I think you know that you have brought a lot of personal change into my life as well, and it has been wonderful. I mean, I'm so happy that I met someone like you, and yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You're doing some fabulous work yourself. I mean, we're just helping people, and you've done that for me. So thank you for giving me the
thank you,
opportunity.
Samara. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Take care,
All
and I
right,
wish you
take
all
care.
the best.
You too.
Thanks for being
Bye.
here today on Keeping It Real with Rammona. Bye bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.